unironically believe in that person and that he cares about me. I was praying like and doing stuff like that. But the reason why I was doing that is because these people told me that this thing is true. You can believe that something is true because of influence of other people. This doesn't mean that you have to be faking it. It just means that you got convinced by the pressure from the surroundings.
Yeah. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I honestly I don't know. I'm hopeless at this point. I debate. I argue with people about quantum mechanics, and they treat me as if I'm a mass murderer. They attack me about quantum mechanics because I don't exactly repeat what they tell me to repeat. So it's just like a religion on this server, on this very server. These people that believe in a global earth, when it comes to me, not exactly saying what they demand that I say, they're ruthless. They are ruthless. It has nothing to do with the
Who are you
truth.
talking to?
It, to be honest, I don't think it's because they disagree with you. I think it's because you're repeating your theory like constantly while ignoring all of the facts that go against it. Uh, and that's it's kind of annoying when you say something that is repetitive all over again while ignoring all of the criticism, because that seems like you're just having a monologue where only you give some information to other people, but when the other people try to engage with it, have some like actual criticism, then you immediately kind of shut it down.
Yeah, you take criticism like a personal attack, Mr. Slave.
I mean, I'm not interested in talking about me. I'm very clear about that, but no one here wants to talk about anything else but me. So I don't know what to do with that.
Well, they just criticize you because you want to talk about things, but when you are being criticized in the thought process or the evidence that you're providing, you take it personal and it becomes about you.
No one ever discusses the topic that I bring up. It's the exception. Usually it's me. It's all about me.
No, there is a process to it.
Okay?
You bring up something, people comment on it or rebut it,
Never.
and you take
Never.
it personal.
Never. Never. I never. It's all recorded. Find me a single clip that I responded personally to an attack on my theory. Everything is recorded, including this very conversation right now. I'm always recording everything. You will never find me ever criticizing anyone for criticizing anything I've ever said. They always attack me. And I always ask them, please, let's not discuss me. And it never helps, basically, more or less.
Well, if that's how you feel, I guess I don't know what to say then.
It's recorded. I said you're welcome to go to my YouTube channel right now and find the clip. Right, according to you, it
Yeah,
shouldn't.
I'm really not that interested.
There are those of us who might think that you're just here to provoke a situation in order to make content for your YouTube channel. Did you ever think of that? And therefore, the logical approach would be to what's the word? Derail what you're doing.
I don't know
Anyway,
that. I mean, maybe you can feel that after the first time you meet me, the second, the third, the 10th, the 100th. But after a while, you see that I'm just doing physics. I don't care about anything else. And if I were interested in content, then I would love the drama, but I always ask everyone to please stop the drama. So it does your theory doesn't fit the data. But you're welcome, Boomer, to talk to me, and if you think that's what I'm doing, I don't know. I mean, we can have a conversation. And I don't know. I honestly, I don't know what to do in order to convince you that I'm just doing physics. I don't know. So I gave up on trying to convince people, and that's why I just don't want to talk about me, and I asked to just talk about physics, but I never get my wish. Anyway,
So what you do is you take your stuff and you compile it in a way to get it peer reviewed. And once you start the peer review process, get other people on board who'll go, hey, he's onto something here, and go through what is generally the way that you get something published. You're coming in here and you're saying, hey, what do you think of this? People see what they see wrong with it. And then you take that, you try to discredit their views. And look, I don't know the stuff Sea Lion Prime's picking out, but I know the guy is really good with math, way better than I am. And when him and Totoro both say something and a bit of back and forth, I'll not understand it, but I believe what they said. And they've said that a lot of times it doesn't work out. There are values that aren't correct. There are mistakes in the paper. So if you're going to correct those, that's good. But you don't correct them. You go for the other person saying, no, you're wrong because, or don't ask me silly questions. There are no silly questions. There are just silly answers, I guess.
as I
So
said,
yeah, I don't have that. Anyway, go on.
no, somebody else wanted to also say something. Anyway, so as I don't know, Boomer, what to say. I'll just repeat. So I usually don't get responses about the topic. 99+% of the time, I get responses about me, and I find that boring, and I'm not interested in that. I try to shut it down, but to no avail. People just keep coming back. They like talking about me, and it's just for me. It's just boring. It's just a waste of my time. But I don't know what to do. But I mean, so like right now, yeah. Somebody wants to say something.
I'm just wondering, what kind of topics have you brought up that you have gotten absolutely only personal attacks as a response to?
Basically, in the beginning, I was doing ether and quantum mechanics. Lately, it's more quantum mechanics and entanglement. Last couple of days, it's entanglement. I'm trying to figure out why my intuition is there is no entanglement. And so, yeah.
So for
Mhm.
example, ether, people in these forums are kind of fed up by the ether talk because there's no really evidence for it and stuff like that, and
Mhm.
it's all gesture and talk. The other thing is when you're talking about quantum mechanics and entanglement and stuff like that, it's the fewest people that actually know about these things. Like me personally, I don't know shit about that, so I could never respond to you, never.
I
So,
was thinking the same thing.
so I mean, maybe it's sure you might be super interested in these kind of topics like quantum mechanics and stuff like that, but it's the fewest people that actually care about that, and it actually doesn't matter at all to most of the topics that is being talked about in these forums. It's what I'm trying to say.
I know I understand what you're trying to say, but I respectfully, thoroughly disagree with you. I mean, there's literal quantum mechanics PhDs in this forum with whom I've had hours of debates, and everybody was very involved. So everything you just said doesn't fit the data, but I understand what you're trying to say.
Well, you just said it. There is a few specific people that actually knows about this stuff, and then the large majority of people actually don't. They might be interested when you two are speaking together, asking questions along the way, but that's to the extent to it. They wouldn't be able to add to the conversations like you, who is studying it, and the other guy who have a PhD in it. You know what I'm like? So
I
Yeah, you just
maybe
understand.
contradicted yourself.
Look, Tim, 1 second trouble about. So, look, Tim, I said I understand what you're saying, but respectfully, I absolutely, thoroughly disagree with you. Yes, trouble about. Who
Well,
contradicted?
you just said that no one talks to you and they all call you names and things. And then in the same breath you went, but I have these great conversations for hours with these guys that know about quantum mechanics. Like,
Yeah, I didn't
so
say.
you have had convos about it with guys, and the rest of us, we don't know shit about it. We don't want to talk about it. I don't know nothing about it.
Your audio was a little bit broken, but I understood what the gist of what you're saying. So
Oh, sorry.
it's okay. So I said it's 99% plus. Yes, I've had good conversations, but even those conversations were filled with personal attacks. But I think at the end of the day, as I said, I respectfully, absolutely, thoroughly disagree with the position that on this server people don't engage in quantum mechanical discussions. I mean, so that's all I have to say about that. You know, to each his own. I don't know what else to say. But
If it was called quantum mechanics, you'd have a case. But the server is called Globe Gangsters. So is that perhaps maybe I don't know, the giveaways in the title?
so I was on my server minding my business, doing Ether and SRGR, quantum mechanics, and C Line showed up and invited me to come here. And first he introduced me to Omnivore, and I had a debate on my server with Omnivore, and then they invited me to join this server. So they know exactly what my interests, where my interests lie. And again, I thoroughly, respectfully, completely disagree with you. I think that on this server, plenty of people have had very nice, productive conversations with people. They seem to be interested, but as I said, I mean, I wish we would get rid of the 99% of personal attacks and just have, discussions about actual topics that are not me.
That's like me talking about me car stuff, and then like I like a Holden, and then if Boomer says, "Oh, why don't you like a Ford? You're an idiot because you don't like Fords." I'm not going to take that as a personal attack.
Well, you're supposed to. You are an idiot. Valiant's are the best. Anyway, Holden Ford dudes, you're all fucking idiots. It's a Valiant. They're the true car.
Look, it's okay to call people names if it's out of, love and brother, you're being brotherly, and it's fine. But like when I talk to people, I feel actual animosity. I mean, I feel the hatred flowing through them, as the emperor said. So that's really sad that, I'm trying to have a nice gentleman and gentlewoman, intellectual conversation, and I get it. I get my time wasted.
Well, you also have to feel the room because let's just say, as you said yourself, there's only a few specific people that actually knows some of the topics that you bring up. If you force those topics down on the throat on people, for example, if the group right now, if you start to talk about entanglement, like people will just get annoyed because we can't engage in that. We don't know shit about it. We just have to take your word and your conclusions as given, pretty much.
As
So
I
so you have to read the room and bring up a topic that you're also interested in, but also fits the room. You know,
So, as I said, I understand everything you're saying. This is not the first and not the second, probably not even the third time you're saying exactly the same thing. And I said, I
I didn't
understand.
say the same thing.
Look,
Right.
I
Now,
understand.
here
Mhm.
it is. You've just repeated the same thing over and over again. Unfortunately, Mr. Human Being, in your analogy, we're all monkeys right now. So you called the analogy when you first came in. You've come in and now, because we don't want to talk about quantum mechanics, you're saying it's an attack on you. No, dude. You've just gone around 3 or 4 times and said the same thing. That's annoying. And that's why people start getting their back up, because right now you're starting to give me the shits too. So social cues, read the room, maybe change the topic to, I wonder what that car was Terry said, or I wonder what Tim's got to say. Ask the person about them instead of making it about yourself. And you might find that people will actually start to engage. But when you make it a me thing, people tend to think, ew, cringe. That's it. That's all I'm going to say, dude. I'm going to say cringe, Mr. Cringe. You're making me cringe. So anyway, now explain it again. Please agree with me wholeheartedly and 100% in what I said, but because you're going to say that, aren't you?
No, I was gonna say that I appreciate that comment. That's actually very insightful. I mean, I really appreciate what you just said.
Okay.
I'll definitely.
So we'll just go back.
He said the same thing as I said, just in different words. Come on, give me some praise too.
Okay, fine. I mean, but he said it maybe in a way that I'm like I don't know. Fine, if that's what you were trying to say.
Bro, I was laughing when I was saying. I'm just trying to break down the walls here, with a few fun,
You didn't say cringe. That's where you fucked up. Tim. You got to say cringe.
You gotta say cringe.
That's okay. Put cringe in your vocab. In fact, a salesman said a great trick to me once. He said, when you're dealing with customers, stack why. Get rid of the word why. Never say why to people. Like, why are you doing that? Why did that happen? Always say, can we? Could we? Should we? And that always makes it a way more inclusive thing than saying why, which that's like what your parents or police will say to you. Why did you do that? So avoid the word why. And I actually found when I started using that, yeah, it is better with a customer when you're dealing with them. Instead of saying, why do you want that pair of shoes? You say, oh, could you go a pair of shoes like this? And you make other suggestions. They're more open to it, I guess. Is that an interesting psychological study there, you think, Tim?
So I'm really sorry. I was reading something on the other screen.
Yeah, in other words, we won't even listen to you. I'm sorry.
I was listening. I was listening.
But I apologize. I should have paid attention, but something caught my mind on the other screen.
Well, I could say, why did you do that? But then you wouldn't know the point. The point was the word why, not using it.
Yeah, I mean, that is correct. It is all about the perspective,
Yeah.
Anyway, so
and what were you reading on the other screen?
So as we were talking about quantum mechanics.
Yeah, we were talking about quantum mechanics. Sorry.
I'm kidding. Anyway.
You are a funny guy.
Yeah. Look, but
so are you interested in other things than ether and quantum mechanics? Like, what are your passions these days?
I mean, I like, anything like intellectual or chicks. We can either talk about anything intellectual or chicks. What's your preference?
Well, that just shows the maturity of when we're talking with someone.
The maturity. Anyway, so no, I can talk about anything. I'm as you notice, I've studied chimps. I've studied anthropology, history, finance, economics. I'm like philosophy of math, philosophy of science, science of philosophy, science of science, philosophy of philosophy. Philosophy.
So is all your interest all cerebral?
What do you mean also liberal? What does that mean?
Cerebral.
Cerebral? I'm actually a brain researcher that's my day job. Is that what you meant? I mean, I'm actually a world-class expert when it comes to like biological intelligence.
Yeah, you don't do anything practical. It's all theoretical and cerebral, those type of things.
I do actually. I'm an AI researcher. I'm actually very practical. Like I do theoretical.
So you're AI. Yeah.
Yeah.
You do AI, and you're an expert, and you're a neurologist or a neuroscientist.
Yeah, I'm I'm pretty much a neuroscientist. Yes.
So did you study neuroscience? Did you study neuroscience?
I mean, I was going to say I'm a very specialized type of neuroscientist that I'd rather not get into my specialty.
So I wonder, how old are you? You can't be that old. Are you?
He's not that. I know he's not that old.
How do you know?
No. Are you more than 30? Are you more than 30 years old? Or
I-
younger?
I usually try to refrain from, divulging any information about me. It's because I don't want to be
Yeah, but
doxxed.
you could. Yeah, okay. But
Like-
it sounds like you're still quite young. So I highly doubt that you studied all the subjects you're talking about.
I mean, what do you mean that I mean, we can talk about.
Did you go to any university? Well, let me ask you that another way. Did you go to any university to study
I
this?
said I don't discuss any private information.
Okay, so basically, yeah. So that means I highly doubt what you're claiming to be true. I'm sorry.
I'm not claiming anything. I'm just. I was asked.
You said you're a
you
brain
already claimed it.
specialist or a neuroscience scientist, and you're a scientist when it comes to AI. So
But
I
no,
just wondered.
no PhD or no certifications.
Yeah, that was the question. I mean, if self-study, fair enough. Then tell us, but don't then claim you're a specialist.
It doesn't. That
was my only point.
It
No.
It's not.
If you put out claims, it doesn't matter.
Okay, so you can think whatever you want of me. I honestly don't care. I'm not here to promote anything personal. I don't care. I was asked, what do I like talking about? So I gave a list of topics. Then I was asked if I'm cerebral. So I said that is actually my day job. I don't know why you're getting upset.
And you said you were a scientist or a specialist regarding the brain, and I asked if you're a neuroscientist and if you've done any studies in a university or something like that. You don't want to relieve that.
I don't want. I'm not here to talk about me. My God, why do we always come back?
Then because you're putting out. You said you were a brain specialist,
then I take it back.
For brain studies.
I take it back. I take it back. I honestly.
Okay, thank you. Fair enough.
Yeah.
No problem then.
Yes, I honestly, because I don't want to talk about the brain either way because I can't. I'm actually forbidden. So I can talk about anything.
Forbidden. No, you're back. Oh,
then
sorry.
fine. Okay, I take it back. I take it back. I take it back.
You're back at it
I
again.
take it back. I take it back. I take it back. Tell me what to say, just so that we can move on and have a conversation about any topic in the universe that is not me.
Okay.
Like, what do you want to talk about?
For a starter, be specific and be honest. Okay.
Okay.
Don't claim you're a brain scientist or
no. I take it back. I take it back. I take it back. I take it back.
Yes.
I take it back. I take it back.
That's what I mean. Next time. Think about it before you say something like that.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay?
I'm so sorry. Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Let's. Okay.
Yeah, you've done this several times, and it makes it a bit hard to believe that you're honest.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
Look, fine. I'm sorry. I don't know. Fine. I'm sorry. So we can talk about economics, history.
It's not saying you're sorry or not. Okay. Like, for instance, me and Stefan had the back and forth, and he knows what I do, and I kind of had to prove what I said. The question was, what do I do for a living? I said, I'm in IT, and my degree is in computer science and whatnot, and I was able to back it up somehow, more or less. Okay. And I also do AI, and the way I do AI is because I do write code. I do a lot of machine learning and whatnot. I had a lot of back and forth with, as an example, with Mortwan. Okay, and I was able to back up my claims. Okay, so when you come here, it says I'm a world-class expert in brain, and then you suddenly says I'm not allowed to talk about it. It's like, yes, I'm not allowed to talk about my job and my specifics of my jobs. But it doesn't mean I cannot talk about coding or what is AI or what is machine learning, what is this, what is the algorithm, or any of this. It doesn't prevent me. No job, to my knowledge, prevents anyone to talk about their things. But when it comes to, I'm a world-class expert in some, like something neuroscience, then don't expect us to go quiet and go, you're this and you're sort of go, no, I'm sorry, I'll take it back. It just, you lose your credit, in my opinion. You kind of go, next time when you talk about something, you'll go, oh yeah, this is the guy who's quote unquote the world class expert in
took it back.
neuroscience and whatnot.
I took it back.
Hammer, my original statement was to Mr. Slave was only anything he talks about was cerebral, like anything to do with higher physics or higher learning with math or anything like that. Like, can't he? If he wants to get involved in conversations here and blend in, or there's other topics besides those sort of things.
No, definitely, no, I understood. Yeah, but right when you said that, he said there's a world-class expert in.
I took it back.
Let's not
waste time. I took it back. I took it back. Let's not waste time. Let's talk about something and not me.
But Mr. Slave, the problem here, you don't realize, you have claimed several things now that you're a specialist in, and then you take it back. It's that we then end up with the impression of you that you are not being honest.
I'll take
exactly.
back.
That was my only point.
I'll do anything so that we don't talk about me. Please tell me what to do in order not to talk about me. Why is it always about me? I don't want to talk about me. I gave you a very long list of topics. No, it's rhetorical. I gave you a list of topics that we can discuss. You said quantum mechanics, you don't want to talk about it. Fine. Philosophy, politics, I don't care, history, whatever. I'm good at everything. I have something deep to say about everything, pretty much.
Okay, we'll talk about carpentry then.
I'm all here.
Okay, so let me tell you about. I'll tell you about carpentry. So, below the hip height, if I see you installing shelves, then you're not a professional. That's first rule. What do you say to that?
I've got no idea what you're talking about.
No,
I think I know what he's talking about, but he said it wrong in the wording.
Then you say it.
No, I'm not going to say it.
Anyway, there's a few rules I discovered that if you don't follow them, then I have zero respect for you as a carpenter.
But
you're talking about a building code, not actual carpentry.
I'm talking about
Mr. Slave, even I, who is a building fluids specialist, senior in so far, I even have to do these trainings of ergonomic, how to lift things, how to step across stuff, what the work height should be, and so on and so forth. That doesn't just apply for carpenters.
Yeah, not just carpenters. And if what you're implying is that workbenches, railings on verandas, there's a standard that's being raised. I think it's 900 mil now. It used to be lower. But
it is.
It's 900 now.
Minimum.
Yeah.
And I think the fall height, if at least here now, if the fall height is more than 1 meter, you need to have a railing.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't talking about railing. I was talking about shelves versus drawers.
Huh?
I was talking about shelves versus drawers.
Depends what you're using them for, doesn't it?
What
do you store? What are you storing in the shelves, and what are you storing in the?
Like, in my opinion, it's always better to have drawers under basically the hip height. It's always better to have drawers. It's more expensive, but it's definitely better.
But all kitchens have drawers in them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Under the bench.
Another problem is like in my garage, I have some heavy equipment which doesn't take up that much space, and you know how cupboards are, or and it's what's it called again? Shit, my brain stopped working.
Closet.
Well, you pull them out to lift stuff out.
Drawers.
Not very practical keeping those things in drawers.
Yeah, some things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
Mhm.
oops.
But that's in a shed, not like as in your kitchen drawers where you got knives and forks and things.
Yeah, and of course, if it's heavy stuff, you don't want to have them high up either.
Oh, under the hip.
Yeah.
You said under the hip.
But that said, it depends on what you're going to use it for. If shelves or drawers or cupboards, it depends on what you're going to use it for.
You can put
It's not
something
just-
that's got a little bit of weight in it up on a shelf, but if the shelf's got to take the weight and it has to be secure.
Yeah, and then you have the danger when you're lifting it down. If it's above your head and you drop it, then what can happen?
Well, it depends on the weight of it and what it is.
Yeah.
So
So it's not that straightforward.
so you guys would rather talk about carpentry than, I don't know, the fall of Rome?
No, but we could talk about, well, I don't know. Should we talk about textotropic fluids?
What fluids?
We could talk about Rome
Yield
with
points.
concrete,
Yeah.
about the
yield point,
lost
shear point.
concrete of Rome. What else?
Yield points, stress forces, K and N values,
Tanting.
Stokes law in moving fluids.
Really?
Yeah, settling of weight materials, the drilling fluids, depending on the angle. There's a bunch of stuff we could talk about.
And a lot of it
Oh, how to
implies
continue,
physics
yeah.
and a lot of physics and a lot of science in a lot of these other topics too.
Yes, and we could do like a simulated oil or gas kick in a well and how to control it, how to calculate it, where it is.
I'm doing a deep dive into the principle of least action these days. Have you ever heard of it?
Least action, you mean within physics?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I've heard about it.
Do you know who came up
It's not
with
a
it?
bad subject. The history of it? No, not really. No.
It's like a guy that no one
I
heard
think-
about. His name is Dupertu or something, and like he just came up with it one day out of thin air with no, and there's never been any proof for this principle. It's a principle. There's no proof for this principle. It's not a theorem. It's not a theory. It's just a principle that
And
no, it's an assertion. It's like there's no proof. There's no proof that the principle of least action is correct. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, okay. There's a lot of mind-boggling stuff in the world. See, that's probably a bigger problem.
I'm thinking, F equals ma.
Yeah. What about it?
What can you prove F equals ma?
Prove by experiment, you mean?
No, I mean,
Yes, we can.
Can you derive?
No, not prove. We have evidence. It's science is about evidence and not proof. If you want proof, you have to go into mathematics.
Right. So you agree that we cannot derive F equals ma from any priors.
No, I didn't say that, did I?
Well,
did I say that?
I'm asking. Would you say that?
Yeah, what did I say?
No,
what did I say?
Fine. Would you say that we? What's your opinion? Can we prove? Can anyone prove F equals ma from any priors?
Master Slave, is this coming from the Veritasium video, the latest one?
No,
Is that
F
the one
equals
you're referring
ma.
to?
I've been trying to derive.
No,
F
I'm not talking. Yeah, I'm not talking F equals per se, but the least theorem as you mentioned. Is this from that video?
Yeah, I mean his latest. He talks about it, but I've been researching it for many months, and now I understand more than ever after I heard from Veritasium about the history of the principle of least action. It's completely groundless. There's no evidence for it. And he was interviewing an applied math professor who said, and he asked him, so what's the evidence for it? And the professor said, I don't know. I came here to hear how you're going to prove it. And of course, Veritasium didn't prove it. There's no proof that the principle of least action is correct. There's no proof that it's correct. We don't know that it's correct.
But is this incorrect? Is that better word? You have an idea. You cannot say it's correct, but you can also say it's incorrect.
But you cannot
Now,
prove
so did
it.
you watch the entire video? Did you watch the entire video? Is my question.
Of course, I watched the entire video. I've watched many entire videos where they derive much more than Veritasium derived. He actually skipped many steps. And I did a video review of his entire video. I went step by step with every bit of his derivation. I went through it, but he skips steps, so it's a little bit difficult. But there's other videos. Other people have made videos where they actually go through all the steps and they prove, there's a bunch of lemmas and theorems that you need to derive in order to derive the Lagrangian. Euler-Lagrange equation. The Hamiltonian principle.
Hamiltonian principle, yeah, I know. Here's a part I don't understand when you said there's no proof for it, but there's to the other side there's nothing against it either. So that's my point. Why do you think this is? I mean, I'm not saying yes, this is a baffling, and this has been going on for a long time. Someone like Lagrange then sat down after 5 years or whatever, when initially came out from the other mathematicians in 5 years, spent like what 5 years to say, okay, I came up with the answer.
Lagrange did it.
Lagrange is a young mathematician, if I'm not mistaken.
Lagrange was 19 years old when he worked when he worked on the principle. Lagrange didn't, right? So, but no, Lagrange didn't prove it. No one ever proved it. All we can do is we can derive F equals ma from the principle of least action. Does that mean it's always true? Because they always just they derive special cases. In special cases, you can derive F equals ma from the principle of least action. That doesn't mean the principle itself is a correct principle. It's a principle of nature. The claim is that m times v times ds, m times v times s is equal to s. I mean, m times v times s is equal to the action, and if you calculate all the actions over every path, then the minimal or the stationary one is the one that nature chooses. Yeah, how do you know that? I mean, that's a mouthful, but how do you know what does it even mean for nature to choose something? That sounds like nature is God, and nature has intelligence and a will, and it chooses to be efficient. Okay, what's your evidence for that? I mean, that's a crazy.
Isn't it? Wouldn't that be based on the physics of the universe?
But no, it's not. It's you cannot.
It's not.
You cannot. You cannot derive the principle of least action from any prior. It's a principle that.
No, that's not what I said.
Okay.
It was a response to you're talking about if we think that nature is like God, but nature around us are ruled by the physics of the universe. Don't you agree?
Sure, of course. I mean, yeah.
But then I don't see that being a problem.
I mean, the principle of least action says something crazy. It says that nature can take infinite paths, but of all these paths, it's going to calculate m times v times ds and take the integral or the sigma over each path, and then compare all the paths, their actions. It's called an action. Compare all the actions, and nature will choose the least or the stationary action. Okay, that's an assertion. What's your evidence? And how does nature, and how does nature do this? Is nature it sounds like you're endowing intelligence onto nature. It sounds like
No,
nature.
I just told you.
Mhm.
I just told you. It's
What?
based on the physics.
What do you mean? But okay, I told you the principle. Tell me what it's based on. I told you the principle. The principle of least action says that if nature can
Yes.
take infinite paths between A and B, then it will calculate the sigma m times v times s. Each one is the action for each path. It will compare the infinite possible paths, and it will choose the stationary one, either a minimum or a maximum or an inflection point. Okay.
Yeah,
Now-
like if you have enough gravity, you will end up creating a sphere. Is that what you're thinking about?
No. No. The
Why
principle.
not? Why not?
No, but that's not the principle of maybe what you're saying is an application of the principle of least action, but the principle itself says that if nature can move from A to B, from state A to state B, move an object from A to B, then it can do it through an infinite number of paths. The question is, which path will nature choose? So in order to know which path nature will choose, you need to calculate the action of each path, where the action is the mass that you're moving times the velocity at which you're moving times the distance over which you're moving. That's the action of each path, and then you're going to calculate the action for all the infinite possible paths that the object can move from A to B. And then you're going to pick the stationary, the optimum, the lowest or the highest or the inflection of all the paths. That's what the principle says. But okay.
Yeah, and why not?
No, what do you mean why not? What's your proof?
I mean, less energy used or less forces coming into play. Basically, isn't that what it's actually about?
No, least action. No, that's the Hamiltonian. What you just said, that's the Hamiltonian. That's the total energy. No, the least action is not. The least action is the difference between the kinetic and the potential. You can formalize it as
yes.
No, that's not the the difference.
So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think nature or physics most of the time try to use as little energy as possible?
Well, what does that mean?
To end up with the Anderson.
Is nature intelligent that it's trying? It has a purpose. What do you mean?
No. The physics of the universe. How physics work.
I don't know. I mean, so the claim is that, but that's not even the claim. The claim of the least action is not the least energy. The least action is something else. It's the mass times the.
Is it?
Yeah, it's different. No, it's not. It's not.
No, it doesn't sound like it.
It's the.
It sounds
action,
to me. It sounds to me.
The action of each path is the mass times the velocity times the distance.
Yeah,
that's the action of.
The most. Yeah, I would. So to have the least amount of used forces to get from one point to the other.
But there's not even a force. There's no force. Mass times velocity. It's not ma. It's mass times velocity times distance.
So mass times velocity does not create a force, a kinetic force.
That's momentum. You could say that's momentum, but it's momentum times distance.
So what happens if you does it have a potential kinetic energy when it moves?
And it does, but that's not the principle. Look, if the units of an action is angular momentum, the units of an action is angular momentum. It's mass. Yeah. It's momentum times distance. Momentum times distance is angular momentum, which is crazy.
So what?
What?
No. Why?
It
doesn't change anything, does it?
The units.
A moving object hang on. A moving object. Let's say at constant speed. Over a certain distance where no other forces are acting on it. Would anything change? Would the kinetic energy change as it travel a distance without any forces acting upon it?
I mean, so you're asking like an object, let's say in outer space, like an asteroid.
You were talking about momentum or speed over time, wasn't it? And distance.
It's the definition of an action is mass times velocity times distance.
Distance. So what does distance have to do with it?
I don't know.
Unless there is some other forces coming into play over distance.
But the whole point of the Lagrange of the principle of least action is that you don't need to bother with forces. That's the whole advantage. The whole advantage of
that's what I just said.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what I said.
Okay. What are you saying?
So there are but if you do change, if there's something that's changing the path of that object, some sort of force has to be applied. Yes.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, it could be. I mean, you
no.
Could, what do you mean? The principle of least action for an asteroid moving in free space, it's going to move along a straight line. So you can apply the So you can apply the principle of least action to figure that out if you had any if you weren't sure.
Yeah, but why do the asteroids go in an orbit around the sun?
I mean, we can have a.
There's an additional additional force that comes into play.
Yeah, but the principle of least action has nothing to do with force. The whole idea of the principle of least action is when the force diagrams become too difficult to deal with. That's the whole purpose of the principle. What do you mean?
So what if it becomes too difficult?
So
we can't solve it. So, but hang on a minute. You just said, okay, an asteroid. Unless there's any force applied to it and it has momentum, it would continue in a straight line. Okay, fair enough. Yes, we know that.
Okay.
But if there is another force acting on the asteroid, like the gravitation of the sun, that will have an effect on its path.
Yes, but that's a force diagram. It's a free body diagram. That's Newton's method.
So what? It does not matter.
No, it's a different method.
Because, as you said, where is the least action then? Is it without any external force acting on the asteroid?
When you do least action, you're not supposed to bother yourself with complicated force diagrams. That's the advantage of the method. It's a principle that you apply as an alternative to Newtonian free body mechanics force diagrams. Force diagrams, they say, become too complicated, like with a double pendulum. So if you want to solve a double pendulum, they say that it's very difficult to do that using Newton's force diagrams, but it's supposed to be much easier to do it using the principle of least action. That's the claim of.
Yeah, but it's like we normally use Newton's laws of gravity on Earth, but we also use relativity in special cases. There's no big difference, basically.
No. The principle of least action.
Yes. What you just said was that when it becomes too complicated, we simplify it to get an approximation which is good enough.
No.
That's basically what you said.
No.
Then what are you trying to say?
The principle of least action is an alternative. It's called Lagrangian mechanics. It's an alternative to Newtonian mechanics. Under certain circumstances, it's easier to use Lagrangian mechanics.
Yeah, that's exactly, But that's exactly what I said. Okay. Exactly. In special circumstances, we use that because it's much simpler. Just like we use Newtonian gravity on a daily basis on Earth. But at special situations, we use relativity.
No. It's nothing to do with approximation. It's an alternative.
Or an alternative to make it simpler to get to the same result. No?
Yeah, to get the same
So-
result. Yeah, to get the same result.
Yes, exactly. It's just a simplification of a problem. It makes it easier to get to the results that you need.
Under certain circumstances, it's easier. Under certain circumstances,
Yes.
it's harder. So in the double pendulum, they say that it's easier to use the principle of least action, and
Yes. I don't see any problem with that at all.
all right, I fine. I mean, but my point was that there's no reason for the principle. The principle is pulled out of thin air. There's no foundation.
You just said it was simpler to use to get to the same result.
But who says it's true?
That you would get with a much more.
But who says it's true?
Doesn't matter.
What do you mean?
Says what is true? Is the result true? I mean, if you use that,
we don't know,
and you measure and observe it in reality.
But what's the proof?
So it conforms your measurements and observation done in reality conforms to the Lagrange.
Okay.
Does that give you an evidence for the principle to be correct?
Okay, look, I agree that it gives results that match the data. I agree, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, so then what?
Yeah, I'm just saying that, like, you would think that a principle, such a weird principle, would have some foundations from which it is derived. You would think, but it's not. There's no foundations for this principle. It's just.
Couldn't it just be an axiom?
Basically, it's an axiom. Yes.
Yeah. So what's the big deal? What's the problem?
No one makes. No one stresses.
It sounds to me you're creating a problem where there actually is no problem.
I'm not creating a problem.
By looking for.
No. It's just that no one. Like, I'm always looking for the derivation, and no one stresses it. That
derivation of.
Like, what is it based on? Let me ask you, what is F equals ma? What is it based on?
Measurements.
Okay. So you're saying, like, it's not derived from any priors. F equals ma.
Based on the measurements.
Fine, but it's not derived. There's no mathematical derivation. It doesn't have any foundation except for we've noticed that it's true. So it's an axiom, basically.
Measurements.
Fine.
It comes from measurements, doesn't it?
I don't know. I've always looked.
You don't know?
No.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I've always.
Could you have something up? Yeah. Okay.
Like when
mass times acceleration. Hang on.
Mm-hmm.
Could we do an experiment using a mass and give it some acceleration?
I agree that it matches the data. I thought that maybe it's founded on like some principle.
I think this is probably where you're missing it. It's based on the measurements that has been done. That's where the F equals ma is derived from. It's not something just taken out of thin air.
Have you ever seen anyone derive it from measurements?
Yes.
Where?
We do that when we have falling objects where I work, which is a hazard.
Mm-hmm.
We always calculate the amount of joules that object will have as it hits the deck or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We know the height, we know the weight of it.
Mm-hmm.
So by doing that, we can calculate the energy. And you can test that. You can have an object. You can drop it over a certain distance. And you can have some sort of sensor that measures the kinetic energy it has as it hits the ground or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so
by doing that, you could in fact derive a formula for it.
Fine. I'm just saying, like, I never knew that it's derived from experiment. I never knew it. It's like no one ever bothered to tell me. Like when I looked for, okay, what is it based on? If you look right, if you search online, what is F equals ma based on? You're not going to find anything. They're going to tell you it's an axiom at best. Like no one discusses the foundations. Where is F equals ma coming from? Even Newton, I think, asserted it in his book. Basically, he said F equals dp.
Yeah, but he based everything. It's the famous apple falling, even though that's bullshit. But that's how he came up with it.
No. Actually, Newton copied F equals ma. He didn't even say F equals ma in his book. He said F equals dp dt. He just copied it from Galileo. I think Galileo came up with the law of the laws of Newton's laws of motion are basically copy paste from Galileo, and I think even Galileo didn't. I don't even like Galileo never proved his laws of motion. There is no proof for for Newton's laws of motion. There's no proof. Like for his gravity,
there isn't.
I don't think so. It's F equals dp dt, and there's no
Cavendish.
No.
Cavendish experiments. No.
No.
Let's go by Einstein, which is more.
Newton
has more evidence.
Newton based his universal law of gravity on Kepler's 4 or 5 laws, and Kepler based it on Tycho Brahe's data. So it's based on data. It's not based on Cavendish. Cavendish, I think, is later.
No, yeah, that is later, but that's just what I told you. You can do experiments and derive formulas based on your measurements.
Sure, but to me that's fine as long as F equals GMM over R squared.
What?
No, as long as you tell me, it's fine. But like F equals ma, no one ever bothered to tell me that it's not derived from anything prior. That's all I'm saying. Newton copied it from Galileo. I don't know where Galileo got it from.
Suppose his observations.
Maybe, yeah, maybe. But Newton just asserted
very
it.
likely, I think.
Yeah, fine. But no one ever bothered to tell me where these things are coming from.
To be fair, I could agree with him that the second law of motion is an axiom, so it isn't derived using anything real, it's just introduced by itself, because mass can be defined by other means than this formula. Acceleration can also be, but the concept of force, it is defined by this law in the first place, so you just have to assume as an axiom that we all agree that force is a concept that is equal mass times acceleration, right? And without this law, previously, before this law happened, there was no formal definition of what a force is.
Yes.
But all 3 laws are axioms. Newton gives us his 3 laws without derivation. These are assertions.
But it's like in mathematics as well, though, isn't it? There's quite a few axioms in there.
Sure, but like Newton.
Yeah, so I don't see why you have this bigger problem with it.
Because no one ever told me that Newton's laws of motion don't have any foundation, that they are axioms. No one ever bothered to tell me this.
But no.
I didn't know it. So I still don't know. I still can't believe it. Like every time you the principle of least action and Newton's laws of motion, I still can't believe that these are assertions out of thin air.
I don't think they are.
I wouldn't expand that what I agreed on into a point that it's out of thin air, because the concept of force is a human construct, right? That is defined using this way, but this doesn't mean it doesn't have anything to do with reality. Like we can, after we already agree that this concept of force exists and this is this particular thing, then after that definition, we can observe applying it that these laws hold. So when something isn't affected by any force, it will indeed move with constant velocity or be stationary. And when you apply this force, it will indeed accelerate. So it's just a matter of firstly agreeing what a force is, which you have to just do as an axiom. But after you do that, then these laws hold, and this doesn't mean they are out of thin air.
Wait, but how do you know?
Yeah, that was my point. But that was the point. It's not just taken out of thin air. It's based on quite a few things, basically.
Wait, so can you derive F equals ma? Can you prove to me that if you apply a constant force to a constant mass, then you get constant acceleration? Can you prove that?
Get in your car.
I'm saying, right, so if I test for it, sure. But can we derive it from any other principles?
Oh, that's a good question. I have to think about that one.
So I've been.
We could derive it from some other things, but this wouldn't be like the historical order before, because historically it's the laws of motion that come first, and later these laws. But if you, for example, take conservation of momentum, then it's basically a generalization of the second law of motion. So you could derive the second law of motion from conservation of momentum, but historically it was the law of motion that came first before the conservation of momentum.
Right.
Wait, can you prove to me that if I apply constant force to a constant mass, I get constant acceleration? Can you prove that from any other principle?
Conservation of momentum, I already told you.
Yeah.
So you can derive, so go ahead, please derive it. How would you derive it?
I would have to go to my computer and start writing it, the formula.
I don't understand.
You have the
can't
formula.
do this in memory. I'm telling you that you cannot do this in memory. You have to sit and write the formulas.
But can you tell me? Can you verbally express it? I'm listening. Like what principle would you start from? What's given? Given a constant mass and a constant force applied to it, please derive that it will go under constant acceleration. How would you start resolving this problem? How would you derive the constant acceleration of the constant mass given a constant force?
It's the most simple equation. You can observe it in nature all the time.
Right, but so you're basing it on data. So you're saying we cannot derive F equals ma from any other principle, right?
Yeah, but it's so the data is so accurate that works in the atomic scale.
No, fine, but all I'm saying is F equals ma is not derived from any other principle. It's derived just from data. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, sometimes you don't need to. It's the most simple law. You don't need to have if it's working, it's working. It doesn't matter if you derive it from something else. All of physics, the first laws is from observation and data mostly.
So you cannot derive F equals ma from any other principle? From thinking about it?
I'm not sure, but
like my intuition is
sure there is a derivation, but
my intuition is that I can think through F equals ma and prove it from a thought experiment. Like that's my intuition. I don't know.
But then you're back to experiment again.
No, thought experiment.
At one point you didn't. So So how would you derive it then?
I don't know. I've been I
Where would you start?
I would start by imagining a mass and a constant force, and it would move over a distance, and it would.
But you need, but now you skip the step.
What did I skip?
Because first you have to come up. What is force? What is acceleration? How does acceleration happen?
So we can define,
and so on and so forth. So you need to start way down. If you're going to buy your kind of idea how to derive it, we have to start at the bottom, don't we?
Sure.
Instead of starting with F equals ma.
Sure. So first we will talk about what a force is and what a mass is, and the fact that a force can balance a mass. That I need a force to hold a mass. A mass wants to fall, and I apply a force, and I balance the force of gravity. So I get a balance of forces with no acceleration.
But you would need to know what gravity was first, didn't you?
Yes. So maybe first we would.
And how? Yes. And how did we get to gravity?
So maybe no. So maybe I would start from a tabletop, and I would try and push a billiard ball with a constant force and imagine how it accelerates and define the
So basically, it's what I've been saying all the time. It normally starts with observation and measurements, and then you go from there. That's exactly what you were talking about now. You were talking about a tabletop, and you had an object that you applied a force to.
I would start from a thought experiment. So I would always try and derive something logically just from imagination, and see if I can do that.
But your imagination, But the problem here is that within your imagination, you need to have a basis from starting. You can't just start with a complete blank brain and then start imagining this.
Yes, I agree.
You understand what I mean?
Of course.
Yeah, you have to. Yes. Which means you as well, doing your thought experiments, are basing your thought experiment on observations and ideas which already exists.
But first, you know what? First I would define distance, then I would define velocity. Right? Velocity.
But that's already done.
That's fine. But acceleration is v2 minus v1. I don't have to think about dv dt. I can think about v2 minus v1 over delta t over t1, t2 minus t1. Right? That is also acceleration.
Yeah, but you have to add a distance as well, don't you?
And these descriptions are equivalent. You can just transform one to another.
No, first I would
because velocity. Because what you basically did is that you said that you can define it using velocity instead of position. But velocity, it already is defined using position. It's defined as the change of the position over time, right?
Sure. But now we're going to define acceleration as v2 minus v1 over t2 minus t1. So that's it. And now we're going to say that the force is what changes the mass from v1 to v2. So I guess we would have to define it. And we would define 1 Newton force is that which changes 1 kilogram of mass from, let's say, 1 meter per second to 2 meters per second. Or from 0 to 1.
Squared.
Over 1 second.
Second squared, yes.
Right, over 1 second. Yeah, sure. Yeah. So it changes the speed from 0 meters per second to 1 meters per second over 1 second. So we would define 1 Newton force as that.
But what you're doing then is basically just repeating what has already been done.
Yeah, but
isn't it?
I don't know. I mean, I always need to derive everything myself to believe it. I don't want to appeal to authority.
Fair enough. That's fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
But what you're basically doing
Mm-hmm.
is using data which has already been derived.
Fine, but I need to derive it
Like
from
you use it. Yeah, but hang on.
Mm-hmm.
You already invoked the formula for acceleration. You didn't derive that out from nothing. You are basing your thought experiment
Mm-hmm.
on other people's thinking, so to speak.
No, I mean,
So basically, you're building on the shoulders of giants which came before you.
No. I just
yes, you are, because as I said, hang on, as I said earlier, if you started with a complete blank mind, without any former knowledge of anything regarding this, you could not derive it because you have nothing to base it on.
Fine.
You need
yes.
You need measurements and observations and axioms from earlier on to get to the point where you now can derive F equals MA.
Sure. So
you understand what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah,
So I'm saying let's think from first principles. And what I see that I have to do is I have to define the unit of force and what it does. The fact that it brings a unit of mass from a unit of velocity to a different unit of velocity over a unit of time. But I end up having to
we already know that and defined it.
Fine, but I haven't. I haven't. Now I just did.
Well, who cares? Who cares? But because what you're doing, you're basing your thought experiment on already done stuff.
No, I'm defining it from scratch. I'm not really.
Yeah, hang on. Okay, if your mind was completely blank.
No, I'm not saying that.
How would you know?
I'm not saying that.
No, but that's just a thought example. How would you derive?
I agree.
F equals MA without any observation, experiments, or measurements at all.
I agree with everything you're saying. I'm just saying I'm not appealing to authority. What I just did is, without appealing to Newton's authority that F equals MA, I end up having to define F equals MA. So F equals MA is a definition of units.
You're appealing to authority unless you actually do each experiment, which we know you're not.
But he's right, but at the same time, this objection can be applied to any physical quantity. You could say that velocity is also just a matter of an axiom that you have to define. That position is just a matter of axiom that you have to define. The same thing with acceleration. So at this point, it's just stating that you need to know what the word mean in the first place. Like if it was some revolutionary thing, that's just how language works. Without just assuming as an axiom that a word cat, which is just a series of sounds your mouth makes, means that kind of animal, then the word cat is meaningless. So you always have to start with something, with just basic definitions of words, and I don't really know how is that supposed to be a bad thing.
How it's supposed to be a bad thing?
Yeah, what about it makes, for example, the concept of force inferior? The fact that you have to just assume it as a word that means something.
I'm not judging anything as inferior or superior. I'm just trying to see where does F equal MA comes from, and
it's just it's just defined. It's just defined as an axiom.
Okay, I mean, fine, but I wanted to go through this myself, and have the feeling, have a better feel for it than just being told it's just a definition. I wanted to see that there's nothing I can do except for define that F equals MA is just, I would say it's just a definition of the units. F equals ma says that if we apply a certain unit of force to a certain unit of mass, then we get a certain unit of acceleration. So it's just a definition of these units. F equals ma is a definition of units, I would say.
No, we basically could call the units whatever we'd like. The result would still be the same.
Of course.
So coming up with a definition of the units, how do you think they arrived to those definitions of the units?
No, as long as you know what you want to accomplish, so then you do set up an now we're ready to conduct an actual physical experiment. Now that we have defined what we want, and so now we need to define a meter, and then a second, and then a kilogram, and then a Newton, and we have F, and we're ready to say F equals ma. I guess.
Yeah, and how did we derive the meter?
The meter is French, is the king's arm.
No, it's 1/1,000,000th of the distance from the North Pole to the equator.
Right, but originally it's in French, the mètre.
That was the but that's what was the definition for a long time until they started using cesium. Is it cesium atoms?
I don't know. Okay, I mean,
fine. I think today it is. Yeah,
sure, it's some arbitrary. It's some arbitrary unit. It's fine.
No, it's not. Hang on. Mm-hmm. What it was defined as, and they agreed upon, was I think it's 1/1,000,000th of the distance from the North Pole to the equator.
Fine, that's still.
So you have this,
but that's arbitrary.
That's not arbitrary. That was a definition made by physical measurements. Yes. Yeah, known distances.
It's just as arbitrary as using the king's arm.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. But that's how the meter was defined.
Fine.
So we came up with a way to define the meter.
Yeah. So we define a meter.
So
we define a second, which actually is not. That's not simple. I don't know, because they didn't have clocks in those days, so they maybe divided.
Based on the speed of light, by the way.
No, they didn't have to. This is Newton. Newton didn't know the speed of light. He thought it's infinite. So I don't know how
nowadays the meter is.
Yeah, that's today.
Based on the speed of light.
And then they defined the second as some division of the 24-hour cycle, whatever. And then the kilogram. I don't know how they defined, probably some amount of wheat or gold or something. And then the Newton is exactly what causes 1 kilogram to accelerate 1 meter per second, I guess, or something, or 10, or whatever. And that's F equals ma. And now we're ready to do the rest of mechanics. Okay.
So we already defined what the units were.
Yeah, but I had to go through defining the units myself so that I don't appeal to authority.
You had to define the unit yourself. How could you define arbitrary the units? How did you derive what 1 meter is?
No, I didn't define. I'm just saying that we would have, right? I said after the thought experiment, I said, okay, now we're ready to do a lab experiment with actual weights and clocks and stuff. And, but first I needed to go through the thought experiment to see that I'm ready for the field experiment.
Would you have to do that?
I would have to do everything.
Could you do the experiments without having defined any units?
No.
Prior to it? Of course you could.
I could? How? If I don't know, if I don't first define a meter.
Define your own damn units, that's how.
Yeah. Yeah, of course I can define my
Could you
own.
yeah. Yeah. Could you use any length measurements like we used in my country, which was called Arlen, which was less than a meter?
You could define your own units.
You could use
fine.
feet. Yeah. That's what I mean. You could even come up with your own unit.
Yeah.
Of some sort. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter.
I agree.
The result would be the same.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I've got to mute a minute. I'm cleaning my garage. And I got a bunch of got a big refrigerator for my I'm brewing beer, so I'll mute for a minute.
Awesome.
You just measure the length of your dick, and then you find out that what the speed of light is in dicks per second.
Oh my god. Dicks per second.
That would be a very small unit of measurement, though. I mean, I get questioning the validity of claims that are about objective reality, for example. But what's the point of questioning the axioms, the concepts that we just defined in the first place? They aren't just something that can be wrong or right. It is a definition that you agree on or not.
Wait, what?
Is my sound quality bad?
It's okay.
Yeah, I was just asking, what is the point of trying to debate definitions and concepts like axioms if they aren't like a claim about the objective reality that can be wrong or right? Like, for example, if the Earth is a globe or if the Earth is flat, it's a matter of some construct that we create as humans in the first place, so we can just agree with the definition or not.
Are you asking something?
I think you're trolling me. Go fuck yourself.
I'm asking. What are you trying to say? I don't know what you're trying to say.
I'm trying to say, to ask, what is the point of this discussion?
What's the point of this? The point of this discussion? What's the point of this discussion?
Yes.
I don't understand the question. I mean, you heard the discussion. At any point, I had a question, and we had a discussion, and I came up with an answer that satisfied me. So the point of the discussion was to come up with answers to my questions to satisfy my curiosity.
Okay, thank you for the answer.
You're welcome. Okay, I'll see you guys later. People are so abusive on Discord. It's unbelievable. The online community is so abusive. It's like you cannot have the simplest discussion without abuse, like crazy abuse. Okay, let's see what's going on in the world.
Down. Many have seen this clip.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
But what a lot of people missed is the guy sitting beside her is her top donator and has donated over $1 million in the last year. So it's safe to say this is quite the iceberg, and most people have only seen the surface of it. So how do we get here? Well, meet Elisa Jordana, who became relevant from being on the Howard Stern show and dating a guy named Benji, who was also on the show. Recently, she's created quite the internet career for herself in the now popular IRL streaming niche, which we are unfortunately way too familiar with here on this channel. And things have kind of taken a downward spiral for her over the last couple of months, with many fights with her top donator. Yes, the guy who's donated over $1 million in less than a year. That's insane. So who's the guy sitting beside her? Well, apparently he's known as Z Scoro or Scoro on the internet, and he's apparently known for donating a lot of money to various streamers. How can he do that? Well, allegedly he's the son of an Iranian billionaire and has spent most of his time online as he's been diagnosed with MS before he became an adult. Shout out to the Kermit and Friendzone channel, as it seems like they've documented the entire IRL streaming career of Elisa. So without that information, this video would have been really hard to compile. So here on that channel, he explained how the donations from Scoro started, which apparently was $50 donations at the time, but then suddenly it evolved into $1,000 at a time, then $10,000, then $25,000 in one single donation, multiple times. So obviously, trying to figure out who this guy is and why he's donating so much, Elisa let him call in a few times. Apparently, one of the gimmicks of Elisa's stream is she lets her viewers call her for entertainment purposes. So he called in multiple times and just absolutely berated her.
And how many things am I supposed to overlook, Lise? You think here I can't get another person? The more I'm nice to this dumb, the more she in public. And guess what? Weezy's right, the Sparta's right, this guy's right. They're all normal, Elisa. You're the crazy. Didn't you tell me right now, Elisa, to call in because you were going to apologize?
I'm sorry. I said I'm sorry.
Like a goddamn retard that you are.
What's up?
Yeah, that's
I did it.
enough at all.
What? I did it.
Even the entire.
I've been to South Lebanon just last week, and I've seen the.
You also said that you weren't supposed to have for ID, and that there was no reason in the past for you to have it.
That is a lie.
We have a pattern here. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
This is.
Story 1. Some get sad or depressed when they get older and their looks fade. Some.
Hey everyone, we have an extremely important update that I've been waiting on for some time, because just yesterday, Sophia Rosing, better known as the Kentucky University Karen, was finally punished for her insane assault on both a fellow student, Kyla Spring, and a police officer back in 2022. Now, this was probably one of the worst
This video is brought to you by Imprint.
The surviving victim of the brutal Venice Canal attacks is speaking out tonight, demanding more police to protect the public and announcing her plans to.
And I'm just.
Not fake, but I wonder something. Oh my god, are you okay?
Well, guys, we're back. It seems like without fail, basically every other day, somebody goes viral for doing something insanely illegal while live.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7.
Hey there, guys. It's Merv the Warlord here. Yeah, thought I'd make a video on.
Alyssa Zinger, a 23-year-old grocery store worker dancing on TikTok. She was already in legal trouble, accused of having sex with a junior high school student. Now she's facing more charges, and her parents could.
This is the Caterpillar D9 bulldozer, a key player in the Israeli Defense Forces. Beyond its civilian duties, this machine has an untold story of military adaptation.
He came in here.
Now they
There is a really simple rule that influences the design of every jet plane you've ever.
I don't know what the cause of this is. If it was because I was like saying this behind the camera, I would have said it out front.
People.
Right now.
I'm not asking you why is there a war.
No,
I'm asking you who you're for right now.
Answer. Why is Lebanon at war with Israel? Whose decision was that?
After you answer, look.
Yeah, you're in my house now, my friend. Whose
there's been
whose fault is that Lebanon is at war with Israel right now? Who made that decision?
Okay, so look, the Arab resistance.
Why can't you answer? You support it. Just say Hezbollah. Yeah, my friends Hezbollah were like, they were mad about the genocide in Palestine, so they fired rockets at Israeli soldiers in Israeli villages and towns, right? Just say that.
Oh my God.
If you supported it, why were you struggling to answer the question?
I'm answering the question right now. The Arab resistance should keep going on. Like whether it's Muslim or Arab resistance, the neighbors should be going on. This the Zionism colonialist state and the Zionist supremacy would have ended a long time ago if the Arabs were in cahoots with one another and in communion with one another, whether it's Egypt, Lebanon, Jordan.
Welcome to Inbox Roundup number 26, where I answer your emails. Today we're going to talk about why the A-10 hasn't been sent to Ukraine, why we don't see much
text around them. This is a new kind of jet engine, and it could unlock affordable supersonic flight for everyone. And a tasty treat for me.
Imagine like all the perks of air travel, and you're going 3 times faster, everywhere accessible affordably on Earth.
We came to see how electric motors and traditional jets come together to smash the sound barrier. And if they can toast marshmallows. Why do this?
It's been 20 years since the Concorde has last flown, and there really hasn't been a new supersonic travel service for passengers.
This is a system that really will enable the sub-$1,000 ticket from San Francisco to Tokyo in 3.5 hours.
This hybrid electric jet engine could change everything about the way that we travel and do it all with carbon neutral fuel.
Airplanes are going to be the only ones in the world, because of this decision, to be able to just directly swap to carbon neutral synthesized methane.
So, will this new jet engine mean we're just a few hours away from everywhere on Earth?
We don't get to have time travel, but you go fast enough, this is like somewhat analogous.
This is Hard Reset. This episode of Hard Reset is sponsored by Neurable. They're putting their neurotechnology into everyday.
Hello aviators, how are you today? My name is Magna Nordal. I'm an ATAC captain and instructor. And I am transmitting direct.
The battle for the sky.
All right, so what's your name?
CG.
CG, is that a nickname?
Yeah.
Okay. What does it stand for?
I used to dance at parties, and they wanted us to have like our own stage names, but I didn't want anything cheesy, so my real name's Jesse.
Jesse.
So it's that just letters taken out and scrambled up, and I got CG.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And where are you from?
I'm from Miami.
You were born and raised here?
Yeah.
And how old are you?
34.
34. I thought you were a lot younger.
Yeah.
So let's start from the beginning. What was your childhood like?
I'm going to assume very abusive childhood.
Battle for the skies.
Not have a normal childhood.
My parents, I think, separated when I was like 2 or 3. I was very, very attached to my mom. Very attached to my mom. I was sweet and well behaved, but very shy. Had a hard time making friends. Really afraid of people. My mom was bipolar, and I was very like in tune with certain things. Like from my age, I guess, like I knew that I recall being depressed like when I was only 4 years old or 3. I think it's pretty young for a kid, because I knew that my mom was sick, but it wasn't.
I can't understand what she's saying. Jesus Christ.
like sick, like she had a cold, and I knew that, and that hurt me a lot. So I remember being sad, like too young of an age, and just maybe that made me like cling to my mom and like strayed from people, or maybe she grasped onto me and that made me just lean towards her and not towards other people. Yeah.
Was there any event that stuck out to you that made you realize something might not be okay with her?
My first memory was when I was a baby. And I know I was a baby because I remember not being able to talk. I couldn't say any words, but I remember being tall. But obviously I was a baby, so obviously I wasn't tall. I see my mom sitting in a chair at the table, and I'm higher than her. So since it's a very long memory, like from long ago, obviously I was in a high chair. So I remember being a baby in my high chair and seeing my mom crying at the table, and me thinking to myself, I remember having clear thoughts and thinking to myself, hey lady, come here, give me a hug. I want to give you a hug. Damn it, I don't know how to say it. I need you to come here. Hello. Let me give you a hug so you're not sad, you know? And I think that was like a baby. That was my.
Yeah. So as I said, I mean, very traumatic childhood. So that's the result, obviously.
First major memory was seeing my mom crying and having thoughts like an adult, like words, like, but I couldn't say it. I just knew them.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, she needs the drugs to deal with the confusion, with the pain. Yeah, obviously, and yeah, very sad. She's very fit. She's a dancer, and her body is still very fit. She's very muscular for someone that does nothing. That's just homeless. A drug addict.
What would you say you were at that time? Like 2?
Maybe 2.
That's a crazy sense of awareness for 2.
She has huge arms, just huge biceps.
Yeah. Well, I think like you start saying some words at 2, because like maybe not even 2, because I couldn't even say mom. I think I couldn't say anything. So I remember just being frustrated that I couldn't even get her attention. Maybe I was saying mom, and she was too sad to like look my way.
Would you describe her as a good mother?
In the sense that she loved me. Yeah. My mom had a drug problem all her life and throughout my childhood.
So probably the same. So her mom was in pain, and the drugs helped deal with the pain.
And so my parents separated when I was 3, and the only times I ever saw my dad were a few times, and it was just him coming over to argue with my mom. So I remember like maybe seeing him a handful of times, and that's what he was to me. It was the guy that would argue with my mom that I was very attached to. And then when I was 9 years old, I woke up one day and the mom's gone. And I'm with my brother, and we're just waiting for her. My dad shows up at the house, and he says, "You're coming to live with me." That was like maybe the second worst thing that happened. I think the worst thing that happened was after that, they separated my brother and I. My brother was 13 months older than me, so that's my best friend. So my mom just disappeared out of nowhere. And comes this guy who my only memories of him are just yelling at my mom, and them separating me from my best friend. And I guess that was a major thing in my childhood. That was a really big thing.
What substances did your mom use? Do you know?
All of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was there like something very prominent?
She said she was a heavy drinker, but I remember like cocaine use and crack. And then later on, like when I was like a teenager, becoming an adult, I guess she was using needles. And then after that, just like pills, prescription pills. So.
Are you in touch with her?
No, my mom said.
She passed away.
Yeah, she died like a few months, about a year before I became homeless. Yeah.
Was it drug related?
A few months, about a year before I became homeless. So she died, and a year later, she became homeless.
So my mom called me one day, like she was having like some drug freak out, and by the time I became a teenager, I was like detached from her. I was very withdrawn from her, and I kind of like withdrew from my feelings, and she was very emotional, and that annoyed me. So whenever she would just get really like belligerent and emotional, I just pushed her away. And come to find out, she was like having some kind of like maybe drug relapse or withdrawal, and
Look, she has a flat tummy and muscular thighs. Just she's gorgeous underneath. Just her mouth is all broken up, but she's just gorgeous. I mean, there's men, millions, billions of men that would line up to take her.
I don't know if it's like she did too much, or if like she was going through withdrawal and she had epilepsy, and maybe she had a seizure during the withdrawals or something like that. And then within the seizure, she had an aneurysm. So she survived that and suffered with it for 10 years. My stepdad taking care of her until she relapsed into another small stroke and into a coma during COVID, and then she passed a year after that.
How was living with your dad when he got possession of you?
It was weird at first, but it was really weird at first because I didn't know who he was and I wanted to be with my mom. But then I think like I really wanted to like learn to like him, and naturally he liked me a lot, or loved me because I was his daughter. But he was pretty abusive. It was very day and night with him. Like I didn't know when he was going to be nice to me or when.
Oh my God. Yeah, as I told you, it's a terrible, terrible childhood. You don't end up like this from a beautiful, supportive home. That doesn't happen most of the time.
Did he use drugs as well?
No.
Are you in touch with him?
He's also dead.
He's also dead. She's so young and both her parents are already dead.
And what about your brother? Are you in touch with your brother? Did you ever reconnect?
No, we did, yeah, of course. But when I became homeless, like before I became homeless, like right before I became homeless, I kind of knew it was gonna happen. And I had a phone call with him, long phone call, and I told him, I said, you won't ever let me go on the streets, would you? And he said, no, of course not. You're my little sister. I love you. You're the world. And then I became homeless, and I asked him if he could help me out. And he was like, no. Just like that, just no. I didn't like school. I got picked on a lot. I always had anxiety, like social phobia kind of took over my life. I always preferred to be by myself.
Do you feel that you were born that way, or that or you were shaped through your environment growing up?
I think shaped, because I was told that I was a very happy and friendly baby. Generally, yeah. I think I'm friendly in the appropriate situations. And
she said that she suffered because she became attached to her mom, and that destabilized her socially.
The right people.
But you still keep to yourself a lot.
Yeah. Especially mainly with streets. It's like there's just, when it comes to the streets and people on the streets, there's just most of the people on the streets you don't want to get involved in. You don't want to get involved in. It's better to stay to yourself.
And what about high school? What was that like? Did you go?
I dropped out of high school pretty early. And I was friends with my brother and all his friends. So I was living with my dad, and then I got my dad to let me live with my mom and my brother. So my brother had his friends, and they all like drank and smoked weed. That's when I got into that. I think I cared because I always worried about the future, even as a kid. But I think I had like a learning disorder due to my anxiety.
Did you have like an idea of what you wanted to be when you grew up as a kid?
As a kid, I liked animals. I always wanted to be a veterinarian.
Okay.
Yeah, but as a little kid, yeah.
Not anymore. Like you wouldn't want to do that anymore.
No.
I'm sure a lot of men would see this video and would come looking for her, but I don't think she would go with anyone. I don't think she would go with anyone.
Later on, like teenage years, and today, if I had the grades and went to school for it, I'd like to be a neuropsychologist.
Wow.
Neuropsychologist.
Yeah.
That would be great. You'd probably learn a lot about yourself too doing that. When you first tried drugs and alcohol, what was that like for you?
So yeah, like I said, when I was 15, I started smoking weed and drinking. And I really like doing that. I'd say like when if I'm not like doing fentanyl, which is like my current drug of choice, I'm an alcoholic. But I'm not really into weed anymore. In my teenage years, I dabbled in a lot of psychedelics, like mind expansions, and then like the more like I guess dangerous drugs, like were like pressured by like boyfriends once I hit my 20s, like coke and pills and shit like that.
So how do you think things started to get out of hand with your drug use?
When I was 25, I had a good friend of 10 years that I got really close with, and we got into a relationship, and then he got in trouble with law, and he ended up going to prison for 2 years. And when he got his 2-year sentence, is when I started using heavier drugs, because that hurt a lot. And then 2016 is when people started becoming aware of fentanyl. It's when like everyone was just dropping dead. You know, a lot of my friends died that year. So that affected it a lot. 2016, all that happening.
Did you try heroin before that?
No, after like 2018 is when I first tried heroin.
Well, so heroin was still around at the time.
Yeah.
Okay. I always heard fentanyl like completely kicked it out, you know, but maybe it was still around at that time.
Yeah, it's still around in some places.
What was it like doing that for the first time?
It was a relief because I was very unhappy with things at the time.
Wow. So that's her relief.
And I was taking initially I was taking pills, and then eventually it's like pills. It's like you have to take so many just to feel it, and that's really expensive. And then when you just do heroin, you do one bag, and that's like replacing 10 pills. It's like once your tolerance goes up with pills, you need like 10 pills to like beat back heroin.
So the needle use that I see and that people do out here, it always kind of blows my mind. I've never tried it myself, but I've always been really fascinated by it. What led you to making the decision to start using needles? Do you use needles?
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I guess, the most you can get to, right? There's nothing really past that.
Yeah, it was pretty quick. And I guess my answer is similar to yours. It makes me wonder why you're fascinated. And I guess it's because maybe from like movies and like books, like William S. Burroughs and Kerouac and all that stuff. They kind of like what's the word I'm looking for?
Glorified it?
Yeah, I guess
or like
that.
Or like the forbidden fruit or something.
Yeah, something like that.
So the war on drugs basically made her a drug addict.
Yeah, the words like.
It's hard to.
Yeah, it seems like it's like right in front of me, but I'm not quite grasping it.
Have you experienced any overdoses?
Me or other people? Myself?
Yeah, yourself.
Yeah, I actually died once. I was found. I was on Biscayne and ran into somebody, and I said I was dope sick, and I asked them if they'd help me out. And he said, "Yeah, you come right back." And it's not really good.
Okay. Incredible.
So what's your name?
My name is Ariel.
So what's your name?
My name is Ariel.
Ariel?
Mm-hmm.
My God, you could see that she's beautiful, but she's destroyed. Oh my God. Unbelievable. This is a very valuable channel.
Most men think women don't want to be approached. They're scared to be rejected, to be laughed at. But here's the truth. Women want to be approached. We crave it so much. We really...
Is she French?
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
How your day going?
And I'm
surprised. Surprised. He's an idiot. There's no way she's a fake natty. He's out of his mind. Okay. Oh my God.
What's up, guys? Derek, moreplates.com. Today we're going to be talking about this brutal story. This is 20.
I think I saw it. Okay, anyway, so what are we doing? So what I want to take a look at. So I came to the conclusion about entanglement. So Einstein won the debate because Einstein said, you don't need spooky action at a distance. You just don't need it. It's not that Einstein lost the debate. Einstein won the debate. He said, you don't need spooky action at a distance. There's just hidden variables. Case closed. As we showed at the end of the previous lesson. But I don't know, people want a magical universe. But Einstein won the debate because all you need to do is just say, I don't need a magical universe to accomplish what you accomplish through spooky action at a distance. There's just hidden variables. And that case closed. And then came Bell. And Bell came up with an experiment that now again I have to contend with. So this is going to be forever cat and mouse. This is identical, I would say. My intuition is this is identical to the conspiracy theorists. It's like it's cat and mouse. The conspiracy theorists always come up with a new conspiracy, with new lies, with new stories, with new flat earth and hollow earth, and prove to me that there is no conspiracy. It's endless. You're gonna end up wasting your life debating people about this nonsense. So now they came up with this nonsense, with this experiment, and that every time they come up with an experiment, we have to sit and think and waste our time to explain why they're wrong and there is no spooky action at a distance. So guess what? I'm not gonna waste my time. Just like I'm not gonna waste my time with flat earthers. Every time flat earthers have evidence that the earth is flat, guess what? I don't care. I don't care. So leave me alone. Like you're trying to tell me that entanglement is a violation of reality, of locality. Okay, fine. You want to believe go believe whatever you want to believe. I don't care. You want to invest in quantum computing? Go ahead, invest in whatever you want. I don't care. I'm tired. I'm tired of wasting my time. That's my answer. So I've answered every time they came up with everything. I have answers. Not every time, but because I'm a one-man show. So, but it's possible to think through their conspiratorial and their nonsensical belief that the universe is under no obligation to make sense. Okay, look, you believe the universe is under no obligation to make sense, then live your life according to that, right? According to that, you don't need science. That is anti-scientific. You don't need science. So go believe in Jesus. Go pray to statues. Go pray to the idols. You don't need science. Me and you have nothing in common. Have a great rest of your life. Roll the credits. We're done. My door is open. Oh wait, you can't see it. So we're done. I'm done. I don't want to waste my time. This is endless. And on top of that, Sabine Hostenfelder, she said, it's got nothing to do with anything. There is nothing spooky. She said so. I don't want to say, I don't want to appeal to authority, but if you really want to know, she said she solved it. Go talk to her. Go talk to her. She said she solved it. She said she doesn't need spooky action at a distance. And she said that the guy who got the Nobel Prize said so. So don't come to me. Don't waste my time. I don't care. I don't debate flat earthers, and I don't debate quantum entanglement believers in Jesus, because that's all you are. You're just a bunch of Jesus believers. I don't care. I have nothing to do with you. I rinse my hands from you. I wash my hands from you. I don't want to waste my life. But since I did already think through the quantum entanglement of the type of this type of the type of where's the history? Where's the hysterectomy? Where's his where's his video? What's his name? I mean, I'm talking about him, Fermilab, Don Lincoln. Where's his video? Where's Don Lincoln's video? If I can't find it, let me go to my channel and find it in, I guess, in general, or in the VC. No, I never posted it. Let's open this paper. No, not this paper. Not this. Not this. This guy. So let's post this because I need it. So this video, I can explain everything in this video. I can reproduce this video, and this is before Bell's theorem. This is easy to reproduce.
Physics is a physical detail. Principle is the direction. Pick the measurement direction to the left. On the other hand, if you decided to measure in the vertical fact of life in the quantum, the most popular understanding of quantum mechanics says that the spin direction actually is in all directions allowed by the wave function.
Yeah, I don't believe that. I don't need to believe that. There's no reason to believe that.
It's only when you make a measurement that the wave function collapses and the outcome.
I don't need to believe that. That's nonsense.
Becomes real. If you'd like
I don't care.
More information on wave functions and how they collapse,
this is religious woo-woo. I don't care.
That other video might help. Now, what would happen if you had two subatomic particles? If you're like me, you'd think that they'd both be governed by an individual probabilistic wave function, and they'd be totally independent, with the spin direction of one particle having nothing to do with the spin direction of the other, and both of them being in all directions until a measurement is made.
No, but fine. Yeah, what's the question?
That happens with four possible outcomes: two wave functions and two probabilities with all combinations of up and down. However, it's possible to prepare two subatomic particles so they both are described by a single wave function. That's what we mean by entangled. K into two particles have to have opposite spin. Okay, so now we're getting somewhere. Feet, miles, or even huge. So the key facets of quantum mechanics is that the quantum world is intrinsically probabilistic. We can't know, even in principle, the outcome of a measurement before
it doesn't matter.
We make it. So suppose we select one of the two particles and pick a direction to measure the spin. Particle to do the measurement with the same result, 50% right and 50% left. Direction of this particle over here on the left, and the measurement says it's to the right. Then we know that the outcome of the other measurement, it will be 100% of the time left, 100% of the time.
There's nothing spooky about it. Questions? Roll the credits. So the answer is there is a hidden variable. That inside the two particles is already a variable that has predetermined how both of them will react to the experiment. The flip of the coin has already been done for both of them, and they both know how to react to the experiment. And they will react in the same manner to the experiment so that you'd get either identical results or opposite results, depending on what you're measuring, if they're opposite or identical. 1 second.